Signs that someone loves you very much. Have you ever felt like someone cared deeply about you, but never said a word? They were always there, showing up when you needed a hand, looking away when your eyes almost gave everything away. Quiet, gentle, but unmistakably present. In a world that measures love by grand gestures, public declarations, and social media shout-outs, what if the most sincere kind of love hides in the quietest places, in a glance across the room, in the way someone remembers your favorite snack from a single conversation years ago? Today, we walk with Michael, a 47-year-old paramedic from Portland, a man who once believed he was invisible to love. But as life slowed him down, he began to notice what had always been there, signs that someone loved him, deeply, silently, and faithfully. And alongside Michael's story, we'll revisit one of the most subtle yet powerful love stories in the Bible, Ruth and Boaz. She never chased. She didn't beg. She simply showed up, faithful, kind, and steady. And Boaz saw her, not with noise, but with honor. A love not declared, but lived. So friend, if you've ever doubted whether someone truly loved you, if you've ever wondered whether you were seen, remembered, or quietly cherished, this message might change everything. Watch until the very end. You might realize someone's been loving you all along. Let's begin. Sign 1. They mirror you without realizing. Michael had always seen himself as a bit odd. He had this little ritual, tapping the dashboard of the ambulance 3 times before turning the key. No one ever asked why. He just did it. Said it made him feel safe. One night, right before a chaotic shift, Rachel, his ER partner, got in, placed her coffee down, and without looking at him, tap, tap, tap. He didn't say anything. Just stared. Then he laughed, "That's my thing." She shrugged. "Maybe it's mine now too." But it didn't stop there. She started picking up his phrases, "Stay safe, cowboy," she'd say, just like he always did. She drank oat milk now. Played the same old country ballads he had on every late-night ride. At first, it felt like coincidence. Until it wasn't. Psychologists call it mirroring, when we unconsciously imitate those we feel emotionally bonded to. But on a soul level, it's something deeper. It's the way your spirit leans towards someone, long before your lips dare to say a word. It's Ruth walking onto Boaz's field, not with loud declarations, but with quiet alignment. She mirrored his rhythm. She moved in his world with dignity and grace. She didn't try to prove herself. She just reflected loyalty, patience, presence. Sometimes love doesn't look like pursuit. It looks like resonance. So, friend, if someone in your life starts echoing your ways, your words, your rhythms, your quirks, don't dismiss it. It may not be imitation. It might be admiration wrapped in reverence. Because when the heart loves in secret, it whispers, not shouts. It reflects, not demands. But even those who quietly reflect your soul can pull away when their emotions start to overflow. Sign 2, they pull away at the wrong times. When Michael got promoted to lead medic, everyone showed up to celebrate. Everyone except Rachel. She left early. No congratulations. No smile. Just a quick excuse and gone. He tried to laugh it off, but it lingered. The empty chair. The silence that weighed more than words. Something about her absence felt louder than anyone else's presence. You see, sometimes the people who love us the most retreat when our light begins to shine. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much and don't know what to do with it. When love stays hidden, emotions turn into chaos. The heart beats louder, but the voice can't follow. And so, They step back. Quietly. Suddenly. Without warning. It's easy to assume they're jealous. Dismissive. Cold. But often, it's none of those. It's fear. Fear of being exposed. Of loving more than they're allowed to. Of showing up when they're not sure they're wanted. Rachel wasn't upset Michael succeeded. She was terrified that success would move him further away from where she could safely love him, in secret. Think of Peter in the Bible. The night Jesus was arrested, Peter, his closest friend, denied him 3 times. Not because he stopped loving him, but because his fear of being seen loving him was stronger in that moment than his ability to stand with him. That's the complexity of hidden love. It's not always absent, it's just afraid. So friend, if someone in your life tends to vanish during your victories, pulls back during your milestones, avoids your celebrations, don't be too quick to take it personally. They may not be running from you. They may be running from the love they don't yet know how to hold. And yet, even as they pull away, they often find strange little ways to stay close, without ever getting too close. Watch till the end, friend, because later in this video, I'll show you the one sign that proves someone's been loving you all along, even when you never saw it coming. Sign 3. They tease you differently from everyone else. Superman. That's what she always called him. Rachel, with her sideways smirk and the kind of dry wit that made everyone laugh, except him. Not because it hurt, but because it confused him. Why that nickname? Why always him? Why did she say it only when no one else was listening? Michael thought it was just a running joke between coworkers. Light, casual, harmless. A quirky little thing she did to fill the silence during long shifts. Until that one night, the night everything changed. He had just helped deliver a baby in the back of the ambulance. It was intense. His hands were still trembling, his heart racing. He didn't say a word. He just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to remember how to breathe. And then she came over. No grin. No joke. Just her eyes, soft and tired, glistening. And her voice, lower than a whisper, Superman. Then she turned and walked away. That's when something cracked open inside him. Teasing, he realized, was her way of staying close without admitting how close she already felt. It was safer for her to laugh than to confess. To mock gently than to speak honestly. Not everyone has the language for love. Some people speak it in nicknames and teasing jabs, in playful insults that only ever land on one person, and that person is always you. And that's the part we miss. We get annoyed. Defensive. Cold. We think it's immaturity or disinterest. But sometimes, it's affection trying not to get caught. It's someone's heart testing the waters, hoping you'll hear the real message beneath the humor. Hoping you'll stay. Just like the woman in Song of Songs, who danced through metaphors and riddles, never saying I love you directly, but revealing it in every poetic turn. Her love was layered, wrapped in mystery, not to hide, but to protect. So if there's someone in your life who teases you in a way no one else does, who finds strange little ways to stay in your orbit, pay attention. Because when someone is afraid to love you out loud, they'll often do it in whispers, dressed as laughter. Sign 4. They remember what you don't. It had been weeks since Michael mentioned to him. It wasn't even intentional, just a passing thought during a rainy shift, triggered by an elderly patient who reminded him of his father. My dad used to hum that old hymn, he'd said softly, almost more to himself than to anyone else. It is well with my soul. Rachel didn't reply. She just kept wrapping the 4 bag, focused on the work. He didn't think twice about it. Then one night, deep into a double shift, The ambulance was quiet, too quiet. And out of nowhere, he heard it. A hum. Faint. Off-key. But familiar. Rachel, cleaning out the back, was humming that exact same tune. She wasn't thinking. She wasn't trying to impress. It was just there, somewhere between her breath and her bones. He stood frozen. Because he knew that wasn't coincidence. That was memory. Love, real love, remembers what no one else even registers. Not the big days, not the rehearsed moments, but the fragments, the forgotten sentences, the scar behind your left ear, the name of your dog when you were 6, the hymn your father loved but you stopped listening to after the funeral. They remember not because they're trying. They remember because you live in them. It's the same way Ruth remembered Naomi's grief. She didn't just remember her mother-in-law's needs, she remembered her pain, her loneliness, her God. And she carried all of it into a new land, into a field that would become sacred. Ruth's memory wasn't just emotional, it was redemptive. Her remembering became the bridge to love that would change generations. Some people in your life may not shout their love from rooftops, but they'll bring you your favorite drink without asking. They'll play a song you thought no one else heard. They'll remember the one story you mumbled in a half-sleep haze months ago, and bring it back when you need it most. That's not accident. That's attention. That's care choosing to stay, quietly, faithfully. And when memory alone isn't enough, they won't speak. They'll simply watch. From a distance. And you'll feel it before you ever see it. Sign 5. They watch when you're not looking. There's a quiet kind of love that never tries to make itself known, never demands your attention, never steps into the spotlight or asks for anything in return. It just watches, silently, from the corner of the room or the end of a hallway, from the back seat of the car or across a coffee shop table, when you're laughing too hard to notice or staring off into space with a weariness in your eyes you've forgotten how to name. Michael never caught Rachel staring at him directly, not in the way people usually do when they're flirting, or curious, or trying to make a point, but he always felt something, a presence that lingered just a little too long, a warmth that hovered even after she turned away. And it wasn't until one ordinary night, after a long shift filled with noise and sirens and too many moments that blurred together, that he happened to glance up while he was laughing with another coworker, and there she was, just for a second, her gaze soft, a little sad, filled with something that looked like both longing and loss, and then she dropped her eyes and busied her hands like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Because in that split second, Michael saw something truer than words, something most people never get to see unless they're paying attention, the raw, unfiltered tenderness of someone who has been loving you silently for longer than even they understand, someone whose eyes have memorized your face like a prayer, someone who's never found the courage to tell you what you mean to them, but can't stop showing up anyway. It reminded him of the moment in the Bible when Jesus says to Nathanael, "I saw you under the fig tree," a line that seems so simple, almost strange, until you realize the power behind it, that sometimes, being seen, really seen, without having to perform, explain, or justify, is the most sacred form of being loved. So, friend, if there's someone in your life whose gaze you keep catching when your guard is down, when you're most yourself, when you're not trying to be charming or strong or funny, look a little closer, not because they want something from you, but because they've already given you everything in the only way they know how, from a distance, with reverence, with a love so tender it would rather stay hidden than risk breaking you open before you're ready to receive it. Sign 6. They listen like no one else does. There are moments in life when you don't need someone to give you advice, to fix anything, or to fill the silence with words. You just need someone to be there, to feel the tremble in your voice even when you say "I'm fine," to hear the storm hiding behind your quietness, To sit beside you without asking for details, without making it about them, without trying to make you okay again, just listening, truly listening, the way only someone who sees your soul can. It was a late Thursday night, after a call that shook him more than he expected, and Michael said those two words we all say when we're too tired to explain, "I'm fine." Everyone else nodded and walked off. But Rachel paused. She didn't speak. She didn't ask. She just placed a bottle of water in his hand and sat down next to him, shoulder to shoulder, eyes forward, silence shared like it was sacred, and somehow, in that moment, he felt more seen than in any conversation he'd had in weeks. Some people love you not by what they say, but by how deeply they hear you, even when you're not speaking. They know that "I'm okay" often means "I'm breaking." They hear the shift in your tone, the extra second of hesitation, the sigh you try to hide. They don't interrupt. They don't pry. But they never leave. In the Gospels, there's something holy in the way Jesus interacts with those in pain. He doesn't rush to fill the silence. He pauses. He waits. He allows people to unfold slowly, to speak in their own time. He listens not just to their words, but to their wounds. When he sat beside the woman at the well, it wasn't just what he said that changed her life. It was that he knew, without her needing to explain, and he stayed. That's what this kind of hidden love does. So, friend, if there's someone in your life who seems to always understand when you're not okay, someone who offers quiet presence instead of solutions, someone who listens with their full attention when you haven't said a word, they may not call it love, but that's exactly what it is. The kind that sees beyond your surface, beyond your strength, into the spaces where you're most vulnerable, and stays anyway. And the more they listen, the more they begin to change, quietly, inwardly, until you realize they don't act the same around anyone else. Sign 7. They act differently around you. There's a subtle shift in someone when they're standing in the presence of someone who means more to them than they know how to say. They might not even be aware of it, but you'll feel it, that moment when their voice drops just a little softer, when the way they laugh with others becomes quieter around you, when their usual sarcasm turns into hesitance, when their energy, so bold in every other room, folds itself in like a prayer in your presence. Michael noticed it slowly. Rachel, who was always the loudest in the ER, who cracked jokes at the worst possible moments just to keep people breathing through the chaos, somehow became gentler when it was just the two of them. She asked fewer questions. Her eyes didn't linger long. Her steps became more deliberate, as if she was moving through holy ground. There was no performance, no flirtation, just a kind of reverence he didn't understand until much later. When someone loves you in silence, their entire being shifts around you. Not because they're pretending, but because their soul recognizes something sacred in the space between you. It's like Moses standing before the burning bush, being told to remove his sandals, not because the sand had changed, but because the presence within it had. That's what hidden love does. It turns the ordinary into the sacred. It makes every word weigh more. Every glance take longer. Every silence feel full. And the beautiful, tragic thing is, they don't act like that with anyone else. Their patterns stay the same with the world, loud, confident, unshaken. But with you, they hesitate. Because they're afraid. Because something in them knows this matters more than they're ready to admit. They walk carefully, speak gently, listen harder, not because you asked them to, but because your existence changes their rhythm. So if someone in your life seems to act just a little different around you, not in ways you can always name, but in ways you feel, that might be the deepest confession they'll ever make. And when that kind of love builds up too long in silence, it doesn't vanish. It spills, quietly, through the smallest acts of care. Sign 8. They care in the quietest ways. There are kinds of love that never write a letter. Never plan a surprise. Never say the words out loud, but show up in ways so quiet, so ordinary, that you almost miss them if you're not paying attention. Love that leaves an extra granola bar in the drawer because it's your favorite. Love that memorizes your playlist and sets it before you arrive. Love that stays late under the excuse of paperwork, but always leaves just after you do. Love that never interrupts your day, yet somehow is always part of it. Michael began to notice them slowly. The small routines that felt too consistent to be random. The coffee cup placed just where he liked it. The light switched on in the break room before he got there. The first aid kit restocked before anyone else had a chance to check it. No fanfare. No from Rachel. But he knew. And she knew he knew. And still, no one said a word. Because this kind of care isn't loud. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't exist to be noticed. It exists because the person giving it can't help but give it. Their love doesn't need credit. It needs presence. It needs to know you're okay. That's enough. It reminds me of how God cares for us, not always in thunder, not always in miracles, but in the still, small moments. The manna in the desert. The whisper to Elijah. The lily clothed in beauty, though it never asked to be dressed. That's divine love. It doesn't shout. It surrounds. So if you've spent your life searching for love that's loud, love that posts, love that performs, maybe you've missed the kind that simply stays. The love that never leaves a note but always leaves you something better: peace, rest, safety. A sense that you're seen, even when you're not trying to be. And if you've been wondering whether that quiet presence around you meant anything, maybe this is your answer. Maybe someone's been loving you in silence. All this time. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. Maybe someone's been loving you quietly all this time. And today, your eyes finally opened to see it. And if you've ever been the one loving someone in silence, please know this: your quiet care still matters. It always has. If this touched something in you, comment below, "Now I see it." And if this message reminded you of someone, share this video with them. Sometimes, one honest word can shift an entire heavy day. If your heart needs more, keep watching the playlist below. Each video is a gentle step deeper into healing and closer to peace. And now, before you go, take a breath. If your heart is ready, say this quietly, just between you and God. God, I think someone has been loving me in silence, and I didn't see it. I don't want to miss it again. If I've been loving someone that way, give me the strength to keep going, even unseen. Help me stay soft in a world that keeps hardening me. And tonight, wrap my heart in peace, the kind that speaks without words. Amen.